to Miss Martin Muses and some more House of the Dragon. I decided to do a little bit of a different thing today where we're going to be talking about Ryan Condal's comments on season 2 up to now. What was he thinking? Because I think in many cases we are saying, what is he thinking? But this is literally what was he thinking. His commentary on Blood and Cheese, his commentary on Nettles, his commentary on is George R. R. Martin even still involved in all of this? I think that the publicity for House of the Dragon has done a very good job of pulling the wool over people's eyes or taking what the left hand is doing or not letting the left hand know what the right hand is doing. So this is something to talk about. We are also going to get into the Battle of Burning at the end of the slides because they really missed something quite important. So without further ado, first of all, if you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, welcome to those that are watching now and those that will be watching on the replay. We're going to start with the inside the episode from episode 3. So I will be giving the sources. Also in the description, I have the sources that you can click on. And welcome to Midweek Musings. So I think that he's talking, rather, I know he is talking about the whole prophecy and when Allison finds out that she is too dumb to live. Oh, whoops, let me do it like this. Rulers can exploit prophecy, either knowingly or unknowingly, to see it through their power and their influence over the realm. I love the way that he talks like he's so smart. I think that he is smart about what he does know. But yes, we know. But check this out, knowingly or unknowingly. He's saying that Allison is still exploiting the prophecy unknowingly. Is there a therefore here? Is he now saying that Allison is exploiting this whole thing? Because they really haven't done a good job of showing us what Allison's motivation is from episode to episode. Like in episode 9 of season 1, it really seemed like, oh, she's doing this because of Viserys's last words. In the book, her motivation was Aegon should be king, primogeniture, but also she's going to kill us all. And she's right about that. Now, previously in the House of the Dragon season, they had said that. Otto had told that to to Alicent. So here's the deal. We already had her motivation, and it was a good motivation. It's a motivation everyone can get behind, wanting to protect your family. Because there would only be one way to have peace if they're all dead. That's the way it works. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. But then they changed it to prophecy. Oh, at the last minute, rather not prophecy, at the last minute, Aegon, said this. So that was in her motivation. And then she knows from this stupid scene in the Sept, oh, she was wrong, but that doesn't matter. I guess this could also refer also to Rhaenyra. It's like, oh, is she exploiting a prophecy? The Song of Ice and Fire? I didn't think so. But now they're kind of saying that. See how they're very confusing? Good morning. Exactly. Yes, thank you, Shane. I'm not sure what you're saying exactly to, but I agree with you. And please let me know if the internet and all that's working because I am doing this from my bed because I am now officially in week 3. Rather, week 4. Being an invalid. Recovery, it sucks. But we do have the technology. Well, hello, Adega. Yeah. Well, thank you. And hello. Laugh out loud, you read my damn mind. Yeah. So what was he thinking? This is what Ryan Condal's thinking about that whole prophecy. Their power and their influence over the realm. Is it that they want to power? Again, they're not making up their minds. If they think they're going, oh, we're making it gray. No, you're not. You're not making it gray. There is a way to write and make things gray. This is not it. Now, I can't stand this. I really, really can't. This whole stupid Rhaenyra's just gonna jump right into the middle of King's Landing. He says she sees it as her job as sovereign to risk herself before she risks the lives of possibly millions of the realm. If he thinks this is profound, A, it's not. Unless he's trying to say that Rhaenyra is too dumb to live. And at this point, I'm thinking she is. The way that they're doing it. No, it is not your job as sovereign to risk yourself. Because check this out, people. If Rhaenyra had jumped in the way she jumped in and died, thousands would have died because all the people that had already come to her side would be dead. Also, all of her children would be dead. She didn't have grandchildren. Her nieces, her nephews, who are also her cousins and her uncles and his brother's former roommate, all of that. So basically what he's saying is Rhaenyra sucks. Now, listen to this. Millions of the realm? Do these people know the world that they are portraying? Not her job. Darn right. Oh, Midrand, we have a super chat. Yes, we do, precious. Thank you very much, according to Christy. Christy has given us a $10 super chat. My spirit animal when it comes to this thing show. Well, thank you. You are my spirit animal as well. Remember, I was so gung-ho just 2 months for this second season until I saw what they were going to be doing. But for this amazing super chat, thank you, Christy. And you, whoops, did I mess up? I did. You can see how often I'm used to this. You, miss, you will get from me, if I can figure this stupid thing out. Everyone's going to be, she sucks. I see you, Stig. Just a second. A rose. 2 roses. Thank you very much. And speaking of another person, I think that is your spirit animal, it is none other from the man all the way from the future, the man, the legend himself. It is Stig Kenobi.
Hi. I didn't see your message until now. So, sorry.
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine. As always, you know that you have been pretty much a open invitation, and I figured we'd go through some of these quotes. Now, I will be citing my sources because I think that they have been a little slick, the creators. So I wanted to put it all in one place where you can see what they have said. But before we continue, we have another super chat. Also, a man from the future. It is none other than the Irishman, who is not from Cork, but that's okay. It is Shane Nolan. He gave us 10 euros. Says recovery sucks indeed, and I think I know exactly what you mean. Yes, we are recovering together, aren't we?
You know what?
What?
When you get those 2 tenors, right?
Yeah.
You'll know which one is from Christy because it's the one that smells of swamp ass.
Oh my gosh. For all those listening, Christy is perfectly okay. Oh, here we go. But before we see what Christy says, thank you, Shane Nolan.
Oh, I was replying to that comment. Trust me.
Okay.
She started it.
Yeah. Well, Shane Nolan, you, sir, get a rose. And since we also share the same faith, definitely from the little flower herself. One thing about recovery and suffering, if you put it to good use, it actually has some meaning, at least. And you can learn a lot about yourself because you have to stop everything. I'm talking about me now. You have to stop everything and maybe figure out what's the bare bones of your life, etc. And I, of course, love my little flower. Well, according to Christy, said, screw that Swedish bastard. You see? Oh, oh my gosh. Week
Oh,
7
I
here.
saw it.
Yeah, you saw it, so that's what you were referring to. Okay.
Hell yes. I pissed back.
Yeah. Yeah, Stieg is not Swedish, and one of these days I'm gonna do a World War II stream a little bit about that because I think that it's not talked about as much as it should, the Scandinavian effort, especially in Norway during World War II. But,
Yeah, we kept the Aussies from developing nuclear weapons.
mhm, and there is a movie about it called The Heroes of Telemark, made in the
Oh,
'60s, I believe.
yeah.
Yep. Shane Nolan says, "Hey, Stieg." Shane Nolan's
Hello,
weeks.
Shane.
Yeah, we love Shane here at Miss Martin. Usually see him also on the streams with Sporking. We are week 7 here. Damn. Well, I hope it's close. I have a minimum of 8 weeks, so we'll keep the countdown going. Maybe have a big party once we're done. That's true. Well, thank you. Well, look who it is. It is. I am going to butcher this. Sig Cagano. I hope she doesn't ruin Rick's rest. Oh my gosh. The show rather doesn't ruin Rick's rest. I am at the point where I'm thinking they will. And if they ruin Rick's rest, oh my gosh. I
Well,
mean, how could they ruin? They ruined Blood and Cheese, which was so easy to do, and now they're ruining.
it
Oh,
it seems they've well, so far after season 1, for the most part, that they seem to take away the deeds of the male characters
mm-hmm.
and give some of it to the female characters to amplify them. So it's more like two females arguing now than anything else. That's just my impression so far, though. That
Yeah.
might change in the next episodes or something, but it looks a little bit like that so far.
I do agree. Literally, they're showing that by inventing that stupid scene that right here with Rhaenyra going into the sept so that she can have a Skype discussion with Alicent, which not only did not happen, but I mean, it's ridiculous. She just proved that she is the worst queen ever. No, it is not the risk. It's not the job of a sovereign to risk herself. Suck it up. You're the queen. It is not the job of the queen to risk herself. So he's basically saying Rhaenyra sucks. But you're right, Steve. But not only are they taking away from the men, so far they have taken away from 2 women. That's George actually wrote. And I'm going to get into that. It Black Alley. They didn't have Black Alley, and they they've been taking away from Rainey's. Rainey's should be doing a lot right now, and we're going to get into that as well. Basically, Rainey's is in Corliss are in charge of the Green Council, Black Council at this point, and it leads up to what is going to happen at Rook's Rest. But before we continue, Adega Outlaw, hello. Oh, very
Hi,
true. Why,
Vega.
thank you. Yeah, we love Adega here at Miss Martin Music. Actually, we love everybody. Jane Nolan, Kirk Douglas, Heroes of Telemark. There we are. Yes,
Oh,
they do. They changed the Missaria as well. Misery. Yeah, she's supposed to kind of be sticking around King's Landing, being the whisperer person. Spoiler alert. She's going to be the mistress of whisperers, the unofficial one when Rhaenyra does take King's Landing. Maybe I should put a spoiler tag here. It's almost impossible to talk about this without bringing some
well,
spoilers
here's
in.
the thing: if they're moving so far away from the source material, are you really spoiling it?
That's true because now we don't
Because
even know if
it
they're going to
might
do
not
it.
happen. But I've been rewatching the original Game of Thrones show.
Mhm.
I'm on season 3 now, and uh, they barely followed the books at all. They kept the main events, but all the stuff in between, you know,
Mhm.
basically they kept the plot points but altered the story. Um, it didn't start with when they abandoned the books. It actually started way before.
Yeah, they did, and each one had a snowball effect, and they're just accelerating it here in. the House of the Dragon. We're going to get more into that. Sid says Rhaenys was my favorite character in the book. They changed her character a lot. Yes. Well, first of all, once again, they said let's give her a strong moment that was not in the books, where she bursts through the dragon pit, murdering all these peasants, and then does nothing and just stares at people, does the equivalent of Jon Snow screaming at the dragon. That made her look dumb. And they keep trying to justify it. It's like, no, that was a dumb move. That was not what a woman would do, or a man for that matter. And then when she has strong stuff to do, like in this season, they're not including it. And they have an amazing actress playing the role. They're
Well,
wasting
they
her.
have amazing actors, period.
Mm-hmm.
All of
Yep.
them are.
Yep. Yep.
You know
And
what's going to be weird though?
what?
Uh, if they do the Aegon the Conqueror thing, because there's been talk about that.
Oh no.
Uh, uh, he is described as being, stereotypical um, Targaryen, like white hair, blue eyes, all that stuff. But then his mom is Valerian.
Uh-oh.
That's gonna have a ripple
They
effect, doesn't it?
It is gonna have a
Because
ripple effect. Yeah. And
yeah,
some
because they are black in the show.
well, and some people have said, like, kind of like what happened in Rings of Power. It's like, was there a genocide or something that happened? Because they all seemed to disappear. Shane Nolan says they have messed up Otto Hightower, his plan with the Triarchy in the Battle of Gullet. Yes. Yeah. There was some cool stuff about Otto. I think they still have a chance, because check this out. In episode 2, they got Aegon right and Otto right, and you saw how dynamic that was. It was good stuff. Yes. Shane Nolan says, oh, in her information age, the girls went to the sept together. They were best friends and lived together. She would know. She goes to church every morning. Oh, gotcha. Yes. Well, and here's the deal. I said this, I think, in another stream. Dressing up like a septa is not going to make you immune. In a situation of war where we have had the heir with a blunt knife in their own beds, even at the sept, they are going to have incredible security around Queen Allison, the Dowager Queen. I went to the Vatican. I went to Mass once at the Vatican, where John Paul II was going to be celebrating it on New Year's Day. I was with a bunch of nuns, and they frisked the nuns as much as they frisked me. They checked your bags. They checked their bags. They had to open up their arms, all that stuff. And we all had to go through the whatever you call it, all the security checks, the metal detectors. They would not just say, oh, there's a septa. Oh, there's a septa that's just walking up and kneeling right next to the Dowager Queen, and we're just going to stay outside the sept. That's not what would happen. And you would even see
Well,
this like in the Middle Ages. You see this today. Hell, even the Pope, there is always, whenever he's praying or stuff, there are always Secret Service all around them. So,
and not just that. In King's Landing, there's a set amount of septas, right? So the other septas that spotted her should have asked, "Who's that?" Because they probably recognize each other.
absolutely. And they would have been on their guard as well. Just because you're basically a nun, that does not mean you're stupid. And they would have been, who's this chick and why is she kneeling against the queen? Also, what made this whole ridiculous is Alicent any second could have called the guards. Now she pointed that out. And it's like, yes, call the guards and stop it right now. So we already have now several instances where the women are getting everyone killed.
Yeah, because Rhaenys had a knife, right?
Rhaenyra.
But then she lets Alicent walk out. As soon as Alicent had some distance, she should have called the guards and ended the war right there.
And she would have.
I mean, because she believes the other one has killed killed one of the princes.
Yeah. And it's just so incredibly dangerous. So
So she was like angry for a day and then stopped caring.
yeah, exactly. And you see, they stop the momentum. I'm going to get to that because he actually addresses this about nettles. Hello, it's Salty Traveling Sea. Yes, I was ranting and raving with you on Sunday night, wasn't I? He says the great tragedy of this show is that it doesn't want to tell the story as written. Instead, it wants to tell a dumbed down, boring, pointless nothing burger. Yes, they are not. They're doing their version of the story, and we're going to see in more of these comments
Well,
from Ryan Condal.
you know what else though? They keep using the what is it? The unreliable narrator as a shield, right? But
Hmm.
in the book, as far as I've noticed, I'm not done with it yet. It's pointed out the instances where the narrations contradict each other,
Hmm.
because they point out, yeah, this person told it that way and blah blah blah, and this other person told it the other way. But dates and stuff, like when this person died, which date it was or whatever, that is not told by an unrelated narrator. That's actually in the history of Westeros.
Yeah,
How
battles.
things happened in some cases. When it's hinted at that one character is gay, right? And you have what is it, Mushroom telling one version of it, and then a Maester telling another version, right?
Hmm.
That's where the unreliable narrator stuff kicks in. It's marked pretty much,
Yes,
which so that they're basically using that as a shield against any criticism for altering. Well, they're not altering the well, they're altering the plot a bit, but story most of all, because uh, the whole conflict currently is based on Viserys mumbling about Aegon the Conqueror and the Song of Ice and Fire vision he had, right?
hmm,
Aegon the Conqueror didn't have that vision. Rhaegar did 200 years later. So, like I said on Christie's stream, it's like someone making a historical TV show about the American Civil War and having it start off with, the reason for it starting is Martin Luther King saying, I have a dream, right?
correct. Also, they wouldn't get battles wrong. Like, for example, the fact that Damon did something really big at both Harrenhal and especially at the Battle of the Burning Mill. Those are the kind of things that unreliable sources will not get wrong. They may say how it, as you said, how it happened, or there was another son for like Maelor, or changing the succession the way they did on the show because now Aemond is the heir, and they just don't address it. That's the thing; they write themselves into a hole and don't address it. Or if they do, he'll say like some little comments on his behind the scenes or in interviews. It's like, no, the show has to stand on its own. Um, you should be able to watch the show and have it make sense. Let's look at the next thing that he says in this same ridiculous sept thing. Rhaenyra does not get what she wants. It's not because Alicent's unwilling to hear it. It's simply because Alicent is saying, my power has been stripped away. Even if she wanted to do something, she feels like her hands are tied. Bleh. There we go. That's their theme. The women would want something to be different, but those
So
men,
it basically boils down to her feelings and not what she can actually do legally,
yeah. Well,
I
I mean,
guess.
people can have feelings, but she's like,
Yeah.
they're saying that, oh, well, she doesn't have power. Her hands are tied. No, they're not, because Alicent could go and say that to the council, for example, though she would feel like an idiot since people have already been killed. But also, it doesn't matter because it's really a question of succession. It's not a matter of a dream.
Yeah. Well, Salty Texan has a good point.
Okay, let me find it here. All right. Salty Traveling Sea said, I lived through covering Wheel of Time and Rings of Power. House of the Dragon season 2 is literally only one step above both of those disasters. Those were offensively bad. House of the Dragon's only one step removed from that. Yeah, I agree.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, uh, what struck me though is how often it happens where showrunners will stick to the source material fairly closely for one season to make
Hmm.
sure they have the inbuilt fans on board, and then use everything as their personal sandbox afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Because that happened with The Witcher. Season one stuck to the source material fairly well because they adapted a lot of the short stories, in that one as
Hmm.
flashbacks. The only thing they really screwed up was doing 6 episodes of Yennefer's hunchback backstory, which is just one sentence in a book. I'm not even kidding. It's one sentence.
Yeah.
But
But they were clever.
other than that, they stuck to it fairly well.
Yeah. Well, and
And
even that edition wasn't contradicting any sources. It's like, okay, maybe they just decided to do that to show some more
yeah,
motivation for
they
her.
they expanded on it. Fine. But it was just once you get to season two, there's almost nothing except for a couple of cases where they adapt one of the short stories again as a flashback.
Hmm.
But
Which was good.
it's the same pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, Stieg, Salty Traveling Sea says Stieg is right on Richard. The focus on short stories in season 1 was great. The Jin stuff was redeemed only because of the off female.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and
that's
I think that that's what they've done. And we're going to get later where I actually have the quote, blink and you'll miss it, that George R. R. Martin is no longer involved with the show. We're going to get there. But before we
yeah.
do, remember.
You know what? When they got rid of him for the other show,
Hmm.
uh, that was when he got season 5. He
Hmm.
was only involved with the first 4 seasons, and we don't know to what degree. What degree? But season 5 is when they altered everything, and the snowball started uh, rolling, and ripple effects all over the place, and it led to season 8, right? And
Hmm.
now they're getting rid of him again,
Yeah.
which makes me think his rant about show writers not sticking to the source material from about a month ago probably has everything to do with this show, because it was the only show he didn't mention because it's probably under some non-disparagement clause in his
That
contract.
is, that is correct. Now, check out this next quote, because remember I said they keep taking their vision and putting it on there. Ryan Condal said, as we were figuring out how to introduce Bela, showrunner Ryan Condal said, she's Maverick from Top Gun.
Which is
So
odd
that's
because
why he's
Maverick would have taken the shot. I mean,
true.
seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, why are they doing this stuff with Bela, inventing this stuff? Oh, he sees her as Maverick. And so he's pushing that onto a fantasy character. So
Yeah.
when he was doing the dive and everything, he was pretending it was a Top Gun plane. I forget what those
Yeah.
things are called
And
because I suck at that.
just to provide some mirroring, I guess. The Rings
Hmm.
of Power writers just announced a troll character that they're introducing in the new season, and he is inspired by Mike from Breaking Bad.
Hmm.
So it's like, so Mike and Maverick in their separate shows. It's like, are we seeing a pattern? They can't
Yeah.
really do anything original. They're just copying and pasting and
Yeah.
editing from stuff that competent people wrote.
Not just that, they're using their head canon. They are imposing their head canon onto this. That's why these characters are not resonating this season.
Yeah, and
It's like,
the sad thing is most people who consume this are not book readers, right?
Yeah.
So this is what more people will watch the show than actually read this book. It's kind of a niche book too. It's just a history book. So
Correct.
in popular opinion, this will be the story.
Somewhat, but I have seen people that are not reading the books, that haven't read the books, that are just saying it's not making sense. So, and this is why it's not making sense, because there's been a lot of what the hell was that? Why is that? It's from people that haven't read. And so the show should make internal logic, and they might think it's a story, but they know something's wrong. That's my opinion, because well, I'll name drop Salty. You hadn't read the book, and something's wrong, and so did Mads. No, not Mads. Yeah, it is Mads. Whatever's. Oh gosh, I'm gonna mess up
Mad
his name.
Mardigan.
Thank you, Mad Mardigan said the same thing. Okay, so we're gonna now move on to Days of Our Lives. He's talking about Rhaenyra and Daemon. It's the fact that their relationship has been built on deceit and mistrust through all history and time. First of all, through all history and time, what? What's he even trying to say there? That doesn't make any sense. But did you ever get the sense from watching the show that the relationship between Rhaenyra and Daemon was built on deceit and mistrust?
No.
Not at all. They actually were the only ones that were completely honest with each other. The most that they showed that was iffy about their relationship was because it was kind of grooming. But they completely trusted each other.
Yeah, basically he's explaining it from the book point of view, but he didn't show it in the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, but they didn't mistrust each other in the book either. I mean, they completely trusted each other, and we're going to see the rather heroic things that Daemon does for her that they left out of the show from the book. In the book, he trusted her. They trusted each other. It was grooming. It was still grooming, but it wasn't built on mistrust. Uh, and then it says Rhaenyra desperately wants to have this intimate connection where she is very close to him and can trust him. It's like, well, yeah, every woman wants an intimate relationship, but again, they haven't established that she doesn't trust him. But then she finds again and again that he doesn't open himself up enough to make himself accessible enough to be trusted. No, that's not what's between them. Now, one could argue they established that with him and Viserys in season 1. That brotherly thing, which was done incredibly well.
That they nailed that bit. They
Yeah.
added to it too, but they nailed it.
Yeah, that's an example of how you can add things and make it make sense. She really struggles with that. Oh, he actually says that. It's the same frustration that Viserys always had about Daemon, that you can let him in only so far, and then he lets people down because of the impulsiveness of his decision making. Now, maybe I said that's the way it was with Viserys and Daemon, but they did not establish that with Rhaenyra and Daemon. And I don't think that his decision making was impulsive at all in season 2.
Would you agree that when they alter things or add things, rather, if they add things, the correct way to do it is to build up established things rather than alter established things?
That's a good thing, that you build and you build and you build. Again, Viserys is Exhibit A, and maybe a lot of that was George R.R. Martin and the guy whose name I can't pronounce, Michael Somethingovich.
Yeah, because
Salty.
It is a different medium, books and
Correct.
TV shows or movies. So some changes will happen simply because of that, because not everything will translate from the page to the screen. But the changes they're doing here, though, is stuff that could have been easily avoided and actually made the show better if they kept it as it was.
Yeah. And when we're seeing what Ryan Condal is thinking about all of this, I'm like, dude, that is not what you showed. If this is what you were thinking, that's what you had to show on the screen, not just boom, let's have a random fight. And that's it didn't make sense to me. Salty Traveling Sea makes a very good point as a show only watcher. I said it when we were live. These characters, especially Damon and Rhaenyra, in no way resemble the characters we ended with in season 1. Precisely because the way it
Yeah,
ended in season 1, boom. Biggles,
yeah.
there
I
are
mean,
I
they
love
they
the
basically made a big point of the Queen of the Blacks,
mm-hmm,
going into a rage, kind of almost trembling with it.
mm-hmm.
And then season 2 starts, and she seems to have gotten over it.
Yeah, the
So
dragon.
yeah, it looked like it was building up to something, and then just no. It kind of reminds me of when they had the in the original show when they had snow was falling in King's Landing,
Mm-hmm.
and then next season starts and there's no snow.
Nope.
It's
Yeah. And
kind of
again,
like that.
they're doing the typical thing of where because we changed this, it has to be this. Because first of all, Damon was not impulsive. That at the beginning, it is true that Rhaenyra was still grieving in the source material, but Damon immediately took Harrenhal and got the Riverlands for her. Thousands were coming to his banner. That was not an impulsive decision. And when he received by Raven about Lucerys, he wrote to the council, the Black Council, an eye for an eye, a son for a son. Just um, Lucerys will be avenged. So that was again not an impulsive decision. That was a very deliberate decision. And his decision at the Battle of the Burning Mill, which we're going to see in a little bit, was very masterful leadership, if you want to say like a general on the battlefield. That was not impulsive. But because they are choosing to change that or not show it, they're changing Damon. And as we see here, they're telling us, well, this is how Damon is because that's what we decided to do. And again, it should have started off. The first scene, frankly, of season 2 should have been Damon taking Harrenhal, scaring the crap out of everyone the way he did, and then striking the banners, and you see the people coming toward him. Then it should have been Aemond with them going, "What the hell did you do?" They left that part out of the book, and that he became Aemond the Kingslayer. That's what it should have been. And then, yes, Otto was trying to be diplomatic. That should have been that should have all been there. And then looming was the whole blood and cheese. But nope, they didn't do that. Okay, and then is this the same quote? Yeah, it continues. The big lingering questions coming out of that scene is, where does Damon go? Ugh. Where do his allegiances lie, and what's going to happen to this marriage? And then, heaven help us, the remainder of the season is very much a study of Damon and Rhaenyra's marriage. Because that's obviously what all of us care about.
They could have done more with Corlys too, really, because I've read that the background bit about him. The guy's a
Mm-hmm.
beast.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a classic, swashbuckling, explorer, and he's
Mm-hmm.
so toned down in the show. It's great actor though, by all means, but again, not given the best of material because
No.
Corlys Valerian is, classic Errol Flynn, really, combined with, I don't know, Columbus or Magellan, something like that. It's an epic
Yeah.
character. It's just, yeah, no, he just lies around in bed eating bread.
Yep. And they left him out of the Black Council meetings. He's supposed to be there. Like by the time episode 4 happens, Rhaenyra and Corlys together are in charge of the Black Council. They left him out of the scenes. They had Rhaenys there, but not him. They're neutering They're neutering Corliss, for crying out loud.
Yeah, he seems completely tame, and then oh yeah, got injured in a battle at sea, and and then
Yeah.
nothing. He should have been built up, kind of a bit like they built up Stannis a bit, and in
Hmm.
season one, Game of Thrones, because he got built up a bit. Corliss got
Yep.
nothing.
Yeah. Well, they did pretty good with him in season one, but yeah, but it's just fizzling. Salty
Yeah, it's
Traveling Sea
they
said,
they they did well with him in his current form, right?
hmm,
But nobody built up his past achievements, and I mean,
true.
people should have been damn afraid to go to war with that guy. You
Yep.
know?
Salty Traveling Sea says changes are fractal when you mess with the fantasy source material in casting, age, sex, race. Yes, especially age. Age really has messed this up. And
Yeah,
sex, sorry, and rather the race, that messes up Game of Thrones, the the book and the TV series. Small changes that start as ripples but become tsunamis very quickly and erase the hero's journey. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and Biggles, George R. R. Martin actually did finish this, and yeah, they are changing because they think they can do the story better, which is absurd. Shane Nolan says he is like they got great living man and most successful man building towns and castles, fleets richer than the Lannisters. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. His having his ships. That's all like building up, and the blockade of King's Landing. I
yeah. The guy is an important player. If you have him as an ally,
mm-hmm.
that's a big deal. That's a
Yep.
strong force. And then in the show, he's just, I don't know, just walking around,
Yeah.
making some
Well, days
statements
of our
now and
lives.
again.
And this is my problem is that it's like a soap opera. What have we seen Corliss do? In season episode 2, they had a bed scene, which is fine. I think it's good that they show a loving marriage and all that. But that's where we've seen him. We've seen Corliss in bed having those kind of scenes that we're all used to from Days of Our Lives and other soap operas. And then the next scene, yeah, they're talking about bread and broth. Well, they're both of them are supposed to be active players right now. But check this out. Where does his Damon go? Oh, for crying out loud. Where do his allegiances lie? We know where his allegiance lies. And what's going to happen to this marriage? Well, frankly, who cares about this marriage? This show is not about a marriage. The show is about a war of succession. And the fact that they're going to keep doing a study of Damon Rhaenyra's marriage, I'm afraid this means we're going to get more of it. Here you go. Someone asked about nettles. They have been avoiding this question like the plague. And we all know why. I think this is confirmation of what they're going to do about nettles. He says, with that character, I'm not ready to comment yet on anything that hasn't been established in the show just yet. There's your answer about nettles. It's true. They're not having nettles. We've already seen some evidence of that because they have gone out of their way to maybe even waste some time introducing all of the dragon seeds, but one. That's nettles. The rumor is that they're giving Rhaena's role to nettles. What did we see in this episode? They were really building up Rhaena. Oh, I think they're going to do it. They're going to mess it up. And Nettles, first of all, is a woman. She is black. So this is a canonical black character, a canonical black woman who is absolutely friggin' amazing. She is a fan favorite for a darn good reason, and she is going to become the partner to Damon. So here's what I'm saying is, it's like what he said in the last slide. Here I am. The remainder of the season is very much a study of Damon and Rhaenyra's marriage. That's what he thinks this is about because he's decided Damon and Rhaenyra's marriage is important. You can't have Nettles coming in messing that up. Boom. No Nettles. That's, I think, when everyone's going to turn. Right now I see a lot of cope where a lot of people are like, well, maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it'll be this. Mm-mm.
You know what? The same kind of cope, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
happened with the other show when people were asking, where's Lady Stoneheart? And
Mm-hmm.
it was like, maybe they're saving her for the next season. Maybe for the next season, and
Yep.
then it's going to be good when she shows up next season. And never happened. Um, I don't know. I'm wondering if it might be that stuff repeating again. But all in all, the show isn't the worst show ever made.
Mm-mm.
It's entertaining to watch and all. But if you've read the books, um, you know where it leads when they change things.
Yeah.
We've seen it in all kinds of fantasy shows. Changes have ripple effects, and usually those ripple effects are not planned. They'll deal with them when they get there, kind of, which doesn't work.
No.
If you have a solid plan for the whole damn show in place to begin with, and you take into account the ripple effects, right,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of you use them to improve something, um, that's fine, I think. But in this case, they seem to just be, like Salty said, um, the, the two female characters don't look like they don't behave like they do in the previous season at all. It's like
Mm-hmm.
different characters for each season. So I'm thinking they're doing what the other showrunners did. They do a season, rather that they plan and write a season, and then they stop, and then they do the season, and then they plan and write the second season, isolated.
Yeah. Alicent really is something of a Margaret Beaufort character. That's what she should be, the mother of Henry VII, because Martin has already said he's based a lot of this on the Anarchy and on the War of the Roses. And she shouldn't sit around being an idiot. And you're right about Picard 3. Yeah, people accepted Picard 3 because, well, it wasn't as bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just forget that it was tied to season 1 and 2 and followed season 1 and 2. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you know, if if you dip something in something that's shit stained, the shit's gonna smear on the good stuff too, right?
Correct. All right, now we're going to move into Blood and Cheese. Maylor does not yet exist on this timeline because 30 years is compressed into 20 years. Condal says, quote, it's there. Remember I said the whole, because we changed this, we had to do this. Because everyone's like, where's Maylor? That's what makes Blood and Cheese. And he's like, well, he doesn't exist yet because we decided to compress the time. So they totally
Well,
messed up their red wedding, and they also messed up the succession, which they still haven't addressed in the show. In the show, the succession has changed because it was very simple. Maylor became the heir after Blood and Cheese, and the whole thing with Helena about all of that and what it does to her psyche. But because they changed this, they just don't have the heir to the throne. So what the hell is Aegon fighting for right now?
which
For his
which
brother?
also which also defeats the whole argument that they're using unreliable narrators from the book. The birth of a prince would not be disputed in a history book.
No.
That date would be set in stone. You
It
know
it,
who the
it would be
father is or whatever. You could mess with if there's an opportunity for it, right? But
yeah.
and why compress it to 20 years in the first place? What's the point in that?
I think it was because they wanted to change Alicent, make Alicent younger than she was. Because when when Viserys's wife died, Rhaenyra was only 9, and then and Alicent was like 20, 19, 20 or something, and then he decided to marry Alicent, and that made her the grandmother, rather the stepmother. They wanted to make them besties and having them grown up together. So because they decided to make them besties and not stepmother and stepdaughter and of different ages, of a different generation, they did this. And again, the
Yeah,
ripple effect
well,
is, okay, there's
they
no Maelor, so we messed up our red wedding, which I was
well,
watching on Nerdrotics and all them. Something I agreed with what they said
even
was
even if
we should
they
still have been talking about the blood and cheese. Everyone still should be talking about how amazing that was, and they punted it because they changed it and also dialed down the emotion of it. Yes, dumb decision time. And also, there's a huge thing with Maelor, a huge thing, a whole battle, a whole huge situation that's going to happen because of him. And again, he's
well
the heir now.
even if they aged up a couple of the characters from the get-go, they still don't need to compress it because all the characters in the original show were aged up too.
True, but because of the way it works, they wanted to show Emma and all that. If they hadn't done that mess up, then the War of the Roses, not the War of the Roses, the Dance of the Dragons would not have happened in 129 to like 131. It would have been 149 and 141. And then that really would have messed with the timeline. Because I guess they don't want to mess up the established history, because that was a part of what they did in Game of Thrones. And that's also the other problem. If you're bringing this into the TV show, which we know they are, it's just a whole mess. All right, let's continue. Oh, here we go. You see, check this out. What we wanted to do. What we wanted to do, not what the story was wanting to do. This is what we wanted to do. This is why they changed Blood and Cheese, the whole thing. I'm not going to say it again. What we wanted to do was make a visceral sequence that satisfied the beat in the book. They didn't, but also played in a reality that worked for the television audience. Okay. Obviously, it didn't, because the reaction was not what it should have been. Many of whom would not have read the book. That's true. But here's the thing. You should have... People hadn't read the book when the Red Wedding happened, but they sure as hell had that reaction. I mean, people still talk about the Red Wedding. So you can do it without having read the book. So you wanted a visceral thing. You didn't satisfy it. And then the reason why it sucks so bad, we wanted it to play a bit as a dark Coen Brothers heist sequence. A heist sequence. They wanted to make Blood and Cheese a heist sequence that makes a terrible
Well,
twist at the end
you
of
know,
it.
a heist involves a plan.
Mm-hmm.
They just walked in.
Yeah. And a heist sequence, that's not like a murder. A heist sequence is coming to steal the jewels or something. And again, we wanted it to play as a dark Coen Brothers. So they looked at Blood and Cheese and said, I would like it to be like a dark Coen Brothers heist sequence.
Yeah.
That's why it failed.
That's, Maverick and the Coen Brothers so far that they've used.
Yeah. Because we
wanted
this.
the one they need to be inspired by is George Martin. Only him.
Yeah.
Not pop culture or
correct
Roe versus Wade, because they did that in season 1.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, let's just pretend there wasn't even George R. R. Martin or Fire and Blood or any source material. This was all made up. It still doesn't make sense. We want a big murder. We want it like a Coen Brothers. We want it like Maverick. We want it like this. We want it like that. It's like, you need to make it like House of the Dragon.
Yeah, and then it takes a terrible twist at the end. Well, yeah, the murder was terrible, but they took away the twist.
Mm-hmm.
That was there.
Yeah, there was no twist. Yeah, what's the twist?
Yeah, it was like a twist, it was, or rather something really twisted at the end. That got neutered, really. And not that it
Hmm.
wasn't horrible by itself, but it had some extra layers in the book.
Yeah. Because the whole twist was that, well, originally Aegon was the target because they wanted to take a son, but since they couldn't get to Aegon, that's why they decided to go with Jaehaerys. And the whole thing where they were messing with Helena, where they were like, "Hey, we need a son for a son. Which one, Maelor or Jaehaerys?" She chose Maelor, and then they go, "Haha, never mind," and boom, got Jaehaerys. That was the horror of it, and the actress could have pulled it off. The actress did a good job with what she was instructed to do, but it was even better, that she really would have pulled it off. And then, of course, she starts screaming bloody murder. Alicent was also there, so Alicent experienced it. Instead, they decided to make it almost a funny scene where Alicent was with Cole right after it, and that's how they ended it. Instead of both of them doing what they should have done, because again, maybe in a book you could have pulled off the subtlety or whatever they were trying to do with Helena's response, but no, in a TV show we need to see it. Like, look, go back to the Red Wedding, the way they had Catelyn. She was just yelling, screaming, "Please, please, please." I mean, her voice was hoarse with her yelling, the actress's was. So there we go. I agree, Sid. Rhaenyra Septicine was also season 8 level writing. Correct. Yeah. I saw it very much as season 7 as well, because remember, I think season 7 was the first time we saw like teleporting, and what was it? Tyrion, he just goes right into King's Landing. Yeah, but definitely we're in season 7, season 8. I used to say we were in season 5. We are in 7 and 8. Oh my goodness, there's my mother. I'm not going to answer though. Oh, I did answer. Oops. Never mind. Bye, Mom. And let me see. Let's go on to the next quote. Again, about blood and cheese. It was always about losing control. Gosh, they've got it here. Wait, Wilson says this. Oh, this is the actor's commentary. And this is what the actor was told to do. It was always about losing control and then being in a position where we had no choice but to do what we set out to do because there was no escape. So it ends up being a crime of incompetence on the show, and I think that's where it differentiates from the books. It ends up being two utterly incompetent hitmen. So
Well, there was no way, there was no escape. They did escape.
I think what they're trying to say is there is no choice but to kill Jaehaerys, which
Oh, so that they were like captured by what they agreed to do, in a way,
yeah.
trapped by it.
Yeah, so this is what they were trying to do. Obviously, they failed. Now, no harm to the actor. This is what he was asked to do, and he knew enough to say that's where it differentiates from the book. It ends up being two utterly incompetent hitmen. So, he knows, the actor knows, he knows what they were doing, but it's the actor's job to do what he is asked to act. So he says, yeah, it was two incompetent hitmen about losing control and being in no choice, but okay, I guess we just got to kill him. It's like, no, they did exactly what they were supposed to do, and they were not incompetent hitmen. So, but that's what they were thinking. That's what we're here for. All right, let's continue on. Is this the one? Oh. Oh, yeah, this is maybe continuing from the other quote. Maybe I put the slides out of order. So working that from that place, we just wanted to try to make Blood and Cheese a visceral television sequence. We decided to tell it from their point of view and making it like a heist gone wrong. Whereas in the book, it's depicted purely from Helena and Alicent's perspective. Blood and Cheese come upon Helena, and she's sort of the third act of their story. The idea was to build suspense and dread as they're looking for Aemond, whom Damon names as the target. And then you put two criminals into a situation with gold in front of their faces, and things can go wrong. Yeah, this is a different interview. So this is another point. So again, we wanted to make it visceral. We decided to tell it from their point of view and make it like a heist gone wrong. And he does say in the book, yes, it's from Helene and Allison's perspective, which would have been horrific. Blood and Cheese come upon Helene, and she's sort of the third act of their story. So they tried to turn it into a story of these crooks that no one even knows or cares about. Maybe this is what it was. The idea was to build suspense and dread as they're looking for Eamon. No, there wasn't any dread, whom Eamon names as their target. And then you put two criminals in a situation with gold in their face, and things can go wrong. That's what they were thinking. And that's why they fail. Let's see. Oh, this is referring to the point when Blood and Cheese say, well, what do we do if we can't find Eamon? And he said, we intentionally cut away from that moment because I love Matt Smith, and the look that he gives them just haunts me. So what do we have, kids? We have those eyes, those faces. This is Dan and Dave material. Why did they do what they do? Well, we love Matt Smith, and he gave a look instead of good exposition. And the reason why he's asking this is because everyone was confused. He, Damon, certainly gave them some kind of instruction, and to some degree, we hear them arguing about it in the room, that he said we need to bring a head, a son for a son. You can imagine Damon maybe said to them, don't leave empty-handed, but we left it open to interpretation. That is bad television. We're not talking about the movie.
Something like that would be actually a plot point. If he says it or not.
Yeah. And they're leaving it up to interpretation. And then that's why we got the mess.
Yeah, it messed up some stuff.
Yeah. Say it once, say it twice. I'll say it one more time. This is why they fail. They're failing because this is their attitude. How many times have you seen them? How many times have you seen them say, this is the way it was plotted out, and so we wanted to bring that to the screen? No, they keep saying this is what we want. You know what, Ryan Condal, you're not God. This is very much like what, what's his name from The Last Jedi said, Rian Johnson. This is the way I saw Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, well, Dave Filoni says the same thing. This is how I feel about it.
Oh, yeah.
George said this, but this is how I see it. He's said that probably 10 times already in the last few years, but it's the classic me. It's really about me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this showrunner though seems to be completely high on fame.
Yeah,
already.
I think it went to his head. The positive response to season 1 went to his head.
Yeah. The positive response to George Martin's writing in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is almost history repeating itself, because the same thing happened with the original showrunners. They got high on, the Red Wedding reaction videos and stuff. So they just amped up the shock moments. I mean, a lot of the shock moments after season 3 doesn't even make sense. It's just there to shock you.
Yeah. I would argue the Purple Wedding wasn't, but that also was when they were still interpreting. Yeah. It was at season 5. That was when they abandoned the source material and started doing their own thing. People, they used the excuse that Martin ran out of material, but actually, no, there was still plenty of material they could have done.
Yeah, Barristan Selmy got killed in an alley fighting a couple of noblemen who weren't even warriors. He basically got killed by a tiny mob in an alley. He should have cut them to pieces easily.
Yep. And here's the thing, you can do me, 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 me. For example, every time George Lucas said what he said about the prequels, about Darth Vader, about everything, when George Lucas says, "This is how I saw it," if you will, he did say that things like Flash Gordon and some of those dog fights in World War II movies. When George Lucas says that about Star Wars, me, 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 me is perfectly appropriate because he wrote it. When um, George Martin says, "This is how I saw it," me, 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 that's perfectly appropriate because he wrote it. When someone is taking someone else's work and say, "Well, this is how I saw it," instead of what it was, and we see this in academia too, where people just look at scholars and say, "Well, they didn't really mean what they were writing." It's the same idea. It is such ridiculousness. Again, I don't give a frack what you wanted, Condal. Uh, and oh, here's what he also said. I think this is in a different article because they have talking points and then they expand upon it. Part of that is the fun of leaving it up to interpretation by the viewing audience. Was anyone having fun or were we just confused? Especially after that ridiculous argument with Rhaenyra. But it's certainly a new thing, a new romance. I'm sorry. And then he's referring to Cole and Alicent. It's a new thing, a new romance. And the idea that these two characters have this very stunted emotional development. Oh, yeah. Well, the way they've written Alicent, she is. But it makes sense since they changed it that she was married so young to Viserys that, yeah, she didn't have intimacy with a partner, as he says. They showed it in the show, and I think that was very realistic. Viserys was not getting her to where she needed to be. So I think with Cole, okay, yeah, they're actually enjoying sex perhaps for the first time in their life.
But that was kind of fun. The hand gave her head.
Yes, exactly. On the other hand, it was how they did it. For example, you could have Allison and him having all of this, but it became a bit of a meme by them trying to connect it to blood and cheese. It's like, no, 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 that took away from the moment. And they'd already established that they were having a sexual relationship. And then in the next episode, they have them doing the Days of Our Lives and what big the Chinatown where my mother slapped, my sister slapped, my mother slapped. She just slaps, 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 and then I can't resist, and they have sex. That again is classic soap opera stuff, not worthy of this material. Again, I'm okay with Cole and Allison getting it on, and I actually agree with probably what he said that they have not had emotional intimacy with a partner and definitely probably not sexual pleasure. But the way they're executing it is ridiculous. And Cole, because he's been a Candyman his entire life in the Order of the King's Guard, and his past sins with Rhaenyra, and he's wearing that like a millstone around his neck. It's like, oh, come on. Crying out loud. But yeah, isn't it fun leaving it up to interpretation? Isn't it fun that we're not really doing our job? More about Allison and Cole. On Allison's side, she was married off at 14 years old to a guy 20 years her senior. She doesn't really have certainly she was physically intimate with Viserys, but I don't know that they had a romantically intimate or emotionally intimate experience just because of the huge age gap between them. That is realistic. I don't have a problem with this. So it's led us to the place where you see that these two characters who don't experience a lot of pleasure, experiencing great pleasure together in a nice way that I think makes the audience go, oh, okay, these are two human beings enjoying themselves, but they don't have the emotional know-how on modeling for how to exist in something like that, particularly something you have to keep a secret. This is where they messed up in their execution. He says the audiences go, oh, that makes sense. No, the audience went, why the hell are you showing this in the middle of blood and cheese? The audience is laughing at the first time we see them doing it. It's like, it was a meme immediately. So they're getting it right, but also getting it wrong. I think that Shane liked your comment, Steve. I'm sorry if I missed that because I was. Oh dear. Oh dear me. Oh, this is dated because they have finally mentioned Darren. Darren the Deering. Darren is a fixture in the show and a character in the show. He adds, "Do not fret anyone, all in good time." This is why I think they're going to mess up Nettles, because when they asked about Darren, this is what he said: "Don't fret anyone, it's going to come. He is a character in the show." When they ask about Nettles, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to say." Darren is awesome. Hope they don't mess him up. Oh, this is with the Dragon Seeds, Alan and Adam. Steve Toussaint says, "Yes, that is certainly a new dynamic. One of the things that Corliss is having to deal with is past indiscretions coming back to haunt him. So they're establishing that Alan and Adam are the children of Corliss." In the book, it was ambiguous because they said it could have been Leonor, it could have been Corliss. But they even say in the book, but he liked dudes, so yeah. I can't wait for Darren. I can't wait either. If they do Darren right, oh my gosh. But we see how they've already neutered 2 good moments from Damon. Yeah, that's the other thing. Season 1, they did not neuter Damon. I've seen the kind of comments they say about Damon. The writers, they're not too crazy about him. They don't like him. And so they almost like they resent that people thought he was so awesome. And first of all, we're not stupid. Okay, we know that Damon is a bad person, but that doesn't mean that we can't think he's awesome. Look at Darth Vader. Everyone knew he was evil. No one wanted to be Darth Vader, but some of the most memorable things in Star Wars were Darth Vader. Here we go. Here's a quote where Ryan Condal basically says it, but really tries to make it sound different. Someone asked about George Martin's involvement with season 2. He says, "Well, look, I mean, he wrote the book, so in that way, he's always with us. But yeah, he's very busy. They're working in this massive universe. They want to make many more shows about the world. He's definitely aware of what's going on. I do keep in contact with him, but I think now that we're kind of off to the races with the show, and we've done a good job about rendering Fire and Blood into dramatic form, that I think we're operating on our own now in a good way. But George always looms large in the background of House of the Dragon." There it is, kids. We're on our own now, and we've done a good job rendering Fire and Blood into dramatic form. Thank you for patting yourself on the back. And I think we're operating on our own now in a good way. This man's not stupid. It's not I think we're operating. We are. We're operating on our own now in a good way. A lot of people miss that.
I think more and more people will disagree with that near the end of season 2. I'm just, calling it now because it's already happening, but it's nowhere near as bad as the later Game of Thrones seasons, though, yet. But it's heading in that direction.
Yeah. We've seen some really ridiculous stuff in this season so far.
Yeah, and it seems to be escalating. I mean, even people that had good hopes for season 2 and all that stuff, and that kind of defended it a bit in the first few episodes, they're starting to turn as well.
Yeah, we're seeing more of that. And Sid, you are correct. If they do Rook's Rest right, I will be very happy. Yes, this is their last chance because they screwed up Blood and Cheese. If they'd done that right, that would have been amazing. Actually, several things. If they'd have done the Taking of Harrenhal right, that would have been amazing. If they'd have done the Battle of Burning Mill right, that would have been amazing. But they've messed up all 3 of those. Now they've got Rook's Rest, which is amazing and is Rhaenys' greatest moment. But they've been sidelighting Rhaenys. Rhaenys is supposed to be in charge right now. They've been sidelighting her. If they do Rook's Rest right, I think a lot might be forgiven. If they mess it up, which I'm starting to be afraid of, I think that's when we're going to see people turn. I would never have imagined
I
before I
was
started.
uh, I
Hey,
was
yeah,
absolutely on. Oh, sorry.
yeah. I was going to say they. I would not have imagined that they would have done it so that in 2 months ago when they were previewing this, that we would have had a scene like the Septa scene.
Yeah, I mean, up until the preview, it looked like they were doing well with the show, and I'm including season one in that.
Mm-hmm.
It had some wonky bits, but overall, it wasn't terrible. I think I gave it a 7 out of 10, season
Mm-hmm.
one. Um, and I'll still say season one is a 7 out of 10. It hasn't dropped uh, in an isolated sense, but season two is kind of. I think I did say on Sporking stream last season though that because we were talking about changes,
Mm-hmm.
and I said the changes we're seeing in season one will have ripple effects,
Yep.
and I think we're seeing that now, and they're adding more ripple effects. So it's going to be, a little stream turns into a big river, right?
Yeah. Sid says people are hyping up next episode that have watched it. I hope that's true. Yeah. And yes, Steve. Fawcett Phoenix is here. Hello. I wonder how much of the potential of the season was lost because they cut it down to 8 episodes. I think not. They they have been treading water for 3 episodes. They could have done season episode 1 was all blood and cheese. Episode 2, Harrenhal and Battle of the Burning Mill. Episode 3, building up to the Rook's Rest. A lot of stuff with Rhaenys and Corlys and all of that. Boom, it was there. But they're just adding things. They're treading water. They're having
They're
Aegon drinking.
yeah, they're adding things and then leaving out battles. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I understand if they have to leave out some battles for budget reasons, because the original show did that when the first battle that Tyrion's in,
Mm-hmm.
when he has to lead the vanguard, when it's before he gets to King's Landing. It's after he's escaped the Eyrie, and he gets just knocked out like Bilbo, right? And then he
Yeah.
wakes up when the battle's ended. In the books, he does a lot of stuff in the battle. He's actually involved. So they probably cut it because I think it's probably for budget reasons in some cases. But some battles you can't leave it out, like the Battle of Blackwater or something. It needs to be there.
Yeah. And how
So
they could have done this without messing it up was if they didn't have the budget to show it, they could have Matt Smith putting on his armor saying, I'm going to go get Syraxes, and seeing that and his little other army people, the Frey guy and all that, walking out of Harrenhal or something like that to their battles, and then cut to the moments, for example, with Black Alley or something, which only needs like 3 actors, and then cut to all the bodies. So they could still have done the beat without showing it, just like the way Steek said, that they showed Tyrion before and then after, but they just completely left him out, which is my issue. They're cutting out Daemon's power and his involvement in this battle. Yeah. Fawcett Phoenix says these first 4 episodes could have been a 10-episode season if they added all the characters from the books and go more in depth. Yeah. It could have been a 10-season episode. And apparently they did feel a little cut off because it originally was supposed to be, but they moved some of the stuff into episode 3. But still, that doesn't excuse what they did give us.
you know, yes, it costs a lot of money, right? But if they had done this thoroughly, the DVD and Blu-ray sales would have been off the charts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. My problem is they're missing the beats.
Yeah.
They're missing the beats,
They're
and then
they're
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 telling us,
missing they're missing the beats because those beats are not what's important to the writers.
yeah, because they keep saying it was important for us to show the marriage of Rhaenyra and Daemon, so we did this. It was important for us to do this, so we did this. We saw it like a heist, so this is why we did this.
Yeah. It's
And
odd. But I said this show has seems almost schizophrenic
mm-hmm,
because the dialogue in most cases is really good, regardless of the story, right?
mm-hmm,
But the story is where it wobbles. So with the dialogue being so good, that's why the actors shine, because all the actors are doing a splendid job. It's only the story bits that really tanks the show a bit, right? So
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking maybe they have someone writing the lines and then someone plotting the story, someone else, right?
Yeah.
So like there's two teams, and then like, yeah, this is the story. These are the plot points we're doing. Make dialogue for them in there, in between.
Well, and they're not consistent from episode to episode. Like Aegon
Yeah.
was absolutely amazing in episode 2, and we saw where his headspace was. And then the next time we see him, he's being silly drinking with his friends.
Well, maybe. They might have different directors for episodes, because the other shows certainly had that.
Correct, but a good showrunner makes sure it stays consistent.
Yeah, it's like there's no character synergy
Mm-hmm.
between episodes. Sometimes, not all, but
Yeah.
sometimes.
And who knows? Maybe they really will do it right. Rook's Rest. I think a lot will be forgiven if they get Rook's Rest right. But I decided to do a little bit of story times. So we're going to do story time, and I'm going to be clipping this. And I'll be pausing for commentary. But I want us to look at the way the Battle of Burning Mill was supposed to go. What should have been established and happening in episode 3. It says here, the Dance of the Dragons entered a new stage after the death of Lucerius Valerian in the Stormlands and the murder of Prince Jaehaerys before his mother's eyes in the Red Keep. For both the blacks and the greens, blood called to blood for vengeance, and all across the realm, lords called their banners and armies gathered and began to march. So that's what happened after Blood and Cheese. They're all gathering their banners and all that. So we should be seeing this. And so then when we see the Brackens and the Brackens and the Blackwood, it's in this context that they should have been establishing that people were declaring for all the different ones. We should have seen it. In the Riverlands, raiders out of Raventree flying Rhaenyra's banners crossed into the land of House Bracken, burning crops, driving off sheep and cattle, sacking villages, and despoiling every step they came on. So we have we have raiders going in and causing this kind of chaos. It wasn't just, oh, you're moving a rock, you're moving another rock. Actually, I'm going to stop the screen here. The Blackwoods were one of the last houses south of the Neck who still followed the old gods. So because they followed the old gods, they had no problem despoiling the septs. So it's even escalating in that sense. When the Brackens gathered a strong force to strike back, Lord Samuel Blackwood surprised them on the march. We should have been seeing him, taking them unawares. They camped beneath a riverside mill. In the fight that followed, the mill was put to the torch, and men fought and died for hours, bathed in the red light of the flames. See, they could have shown that. If they didn't want to show the actual battle, you could have shown some burning and some flames and things. Sir Amos Bracken, leading the host from Stonehenge, cut down and slew Lord Blackwood in single combat. Again, single combat, two dudes, only to perish himself when when a weirwood arrow found the eye slit of his helm and drove deep into his skull. Supposedly, that shaft was loosed by Lord Sandwell's 16-year-old sister, Alisan, who would later be known as Black Allie. So that's pretty awesome. That's some awesome stuff in a strong woman, a strong women moment. They should have been establishing these things, especially because they said they wanted to establish how more common people were affected by all of this. They do say, though, whether this is fact or family legend cannot be known. But it was a choice not to show any of this. But what was not family legend, many other grievous losses were suffered by both sides in what became known as the Battle of the Burning Mill. And when the Brackens finally broke and fled back into their own lands under the command of Sir Amos's bastard half-brother, Sir Raylan Rivers, it was only to find that Stonehenge had been taken in their absence, led by Prince Damon on Caraxes, a strong host made up of Dairies, Roots, Pipers, and Freys had captured the castle by storm in the absence of so much of House Bracken's strength. Lord Humphrey Bracken and his remaining children had been made captive along with his third wife and baseborn paramour. Rather than see them come to harm, Sir Raylan yielded, with House Bracken thus broken and defeated. The last of King Aegon's supporters in the Riverlands lost heart and laid down their own swords as well. This was huge, a huge victory for Rhaenyra at the hands of Daemon. That's what they left out because they wanted to focus on their marriage. Thank you, Biggles. Yeah, so, and again, if they had budget issues, there were ways to film that. Oh, his son became Lord then. Are you talking about the Rivers guy or Lord Humphrey Bracken? Lord Humphrey Bracken, they became became rather captives. So this was actually the last of King Aegon's supporters in the Riverlands. Because by this point, of course, Daemon has already taken Harrenhal. That's what Daemon is doing. That is his loyalty to Rhaenyra. But what did they give us instead? They totally cucked him. I don't know. So that's what's going on there. And there's more with Otto. I might be doing some more with Otto at a later time. Ugh. Oh, yeah, here it says, yet it must not be thought that the Green Council was sitting idle. Sir Otto Hightower had been very busy as well, winning over lords, hiring sellswords, strengthening the defenses of King's Landing, and assiduously seeking after other alliances. After the rejection of Grand Maester Orwell's priest overtures, the Hand redoubled his efforts, dispatching ravens to Winterfell and the Eyrie to Riverrun, White Harbor, Goldtown, Bitterbridge, Fair Isle, and half a hundred other keeps and castles. Riders galloped through the night to holdings close to hand to summon their lords and ladies to court and do fealty to King Aegon. Sir Otto also reached out to Dorne, whose ruling prince, Corin Martell, had once warred against Prince Daemon in the Stepstones. But Prince Corin spurned his offer. Dorne has danced with dragons before, he said. I would sooner sleep with scorpions. Blackwood. Okay, I understand. Maybe. I don't know if Daemon actually claimed it or not. But also they're making it clear that Daemon is Prince Daemon at this point. It said, yet Sir Otto was losing the trust of his king, who mistook his efforts for inaction and his caution for cowardice. Septon Eustace tells us that one of that on Septon Eustace tells us of one occasion when Aegon entered the Tower of the Hand and found Sir Otto writing another letter, whereupon he knocked the inkpot into his grandsire's lap, declaring, "Thrones are won with swords, not quills. Spill blood, not ink." And they also point out the fall of Harrenhal to Prince Daemon came as a great shock to his grace. So Aegon's supposed to be shocked by all this. Maybe they'll show that in the next season. And Harrenhal left his grace feeling vulnerable for the first time. The subsequent defeats at Burning Mill and Stonehenge came as further blows and made the king realize that his situation was more perilous than it had seemed. These fears deepened as ravens returned from the Reach, where the Greens had believed themselves strongest. House Hightower and Old Town were solidly behind King Aegon, and his grace had the arbor too. But elsewhere in the south, other lords were declaring for Rhaenyra. Also, more blows that the Sea Snake's fleets have closed the Blackwater Bay. You see, I think the reason why they didn't want to show Corlys doing it, because if he had closed the Blackwater Bay, then the Rhaenyra would not have been able to come through. She would not have been able to take her little chit chat with Alicent. And it was part of because that blockade that he was removed as the gift. I didn't quite mind the way they did the Otto part in the show, but the rest, nah. So there it is. That's all they had to do. What say you, Steve?
I agree. That's all they had to do.
Yeah. It wrote itself.
Well, it was already written.
Yeah.
Most of it. All they had to do was put it on screen.
Yeah. I mean, the end of this episode still could have been saved if they had shown the last scene being everyone rallying to Daemon, the black flags in the Riverlands showing he's got the Riverlands. That was all they had to do. And they could have done it with just some tents and some banners. And then, like, closed in on Daemon's face saying, ha ha ha, I've got them all. So. But episode 4, maybe they'll save it. We shall see.
Yeah, well, it's entirely possible that they have moved stuff around and it makes more sense later in the way they've done it. But I don't know. It's the ripple effects. It's always ripple effects.
Yeah. And if they,
with The Witcher, they stuck to the source material fairly well in season 1, and then they abandoned it in season 2, and then they panicked with season 3 and went, oh no, yeah, we're going to start sticking to the source material now. But you've already demolished the source material.
Yeah,
so
because
you
they
can't
killed
really
off
go back to something you've already messed up.
Yeah, well, because in The Witcher they killed a major character.
Well, a minor character, but still important.
Yeah. Let's see,
if someone's played the games, the Witcher games are not canon; they're an optional continuation of the books. So if characters are alive in the game, that means they survived the books.
Oh, good point.
Because the game writers stuck to what they had. They respected the lore and everything and all that stuff. I mean, the whole Witcher game world in the Witcher games is exactly what it is in the books. It's gritty and unkind, and you wouldn't want to live there unless you were filthy rich.
Yeah. In general, with all of these things, which is why I said that if I'd have lived there, I'd have been a nun in the Middle Ages, rather, in our world. Shane Dolan says he's consort, but is disputed as his wife being queen. Wiki of Ice and Fire and read a bit questionable. I know. Yeah. Well, I understand where you're coming from. I'm coming from the way it was in the real world with the British kings and queens and all that. Um, Regardless, in the book, Martin calls him prince all the time. He never calls him king consort. So that would be the answer. They chose in the book to, oh, sorry, in the show to make it, is he king consort? It's not such a big deal, except for the fact that they made a big dialogue, and then that added all these questions here. Dialogue that didn't need to be, because when you see by the actions of Damon, he really wasn't trying to be too special. All right, well, we're going to wind up this party. We've been going for about an hour and a half. It's really always good to yap about these things with everyone. I want to thank those that popped in. We had Shane Nolan, we had Celeste Phoenix, Sid, I know I'm going to get your name mispronounced, Biggles. We had Salty Traveling Sea, according to Christy, Adega Outlaw, and we had super chats from Shane Nolan and according to Christy. Thank you so much for those. And for all of you that are watching now or will be watching on the replay, I want to thank you for being here and let me know if I did anything right, I did anything wrong, or what I may have left out. Oh, thank you, Shane Nolan. He gave us the link to that. So if you want to have a look at it, go ahead and do so. Yes, always good to have the different source materials. And as I said, for most of the articles, I believe I do have the links so you can see them for yourself. I just wanted to do this because I think it really got us into the head of the show writer, Brian Condal, why they're doing what they're doing, and why we're seeing what we're seeing on the screen that is confusing. So, Steve, what do you have coming up?
A stream today with Mara. We're doing our positive news, funny, weird news stream at
The good.
I think it's at 8:30 Eastern.
Correct. I think she's moved it up a little bit. So yes, 8:30 Eastern or 7:30 Central. The good, the fun, and the weird.
Yeah. Keep forgetting the name. And I'm doing a top 10 with her next week. Top 10 favorite movies of 1988, I think it is. I think it's 80.
Well, cool. Yes, 1988, another good year for films, and those are always fun because you can bring your own top 10 with you to discuss it. Also, I really enjoy.
Oh, actually, no, it's 89.
Oh, 89.
I think. Shit, now I don't know. Damn it.
Well, we'll figure it out. Well, I guess you could go on Jade Shadow and see what the last one was that you did. Well, before you make your list, definitely make sure you have the right one. And what I like about the good, the fun, and the weird is, it's got some good stories, so things that'll make you feel all warm and fuzzy, but it will also have like some weird stuff like Bigfoot or aliens or something like that, kind of like a little bit of the X-Files. The good, the fun, and the weird. So that's always a lot of fun. I'm trying to find Mars. I don't know. I typed in Jade Shadow. A lot of stuff will come up when you type in Jade Shadow on there. So, but please be sure to maybe subscribe to her and tune in. Thank you, Shane. This has been a great discussion. I'm glad I was able to do this because it's been on the mind and I have been putting these things together. So I'm glad I was finally able to do so and to discuss it with Stieg, of course. Thank you. So is there any last words you have, Stieg?
I think it's 89.
Oh, okay. We think it's 89. 89 is also a good year.
Yeah, it's 89. Yes, definitely 89.
All right. So the year of 1989. That's one of my favorite movies, which is Glory.
That's not on my list. It might. I might put it on the list because I have some open slots yet. But I've only seen it once, so it probably won't qualify.
Yeah.
Because we're not doing the best movies. We're just doing our personal favorites. So, nostalgia and childhood memories and all that stuff that is heavily factored in.
Yeah, which is what makes it great. So you'll see all different kinds of things. Yeah. Well, for me, Glory definitely when the movie came out, it had a great impact on me, and I saw it like several times in the cinema. Great movie. All right. Well, that's it. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to I don't know, take some of this House of the Dragon stuff and maybe just go ahead and enjoy the source material and be certain to, I guess, watch this Sunday for hopefully a good Brooks rest.